Okay, it's time to take it for a run here. I just adjusted the front tubes down to where they're supposed to be, which raised the front end about an inch, which I think is going to help the seating position maybe a little bit. There's nothing worse than having a bike push you forward in the seat. Okay, it's we'll get the Star Wars thing going here. And you hit the start button for a couple seconds, and there it should be armed. And there she goes. So when the lights are flashing like that, that means it's armed, and it is in, I can't see fourth gear. I've got sunglasses on and they're polarized, so it's really hard to see the speedometer. It does feel a lot like a mini bike. Of course, I'm used to the wing, which is ginormous. You don't use the clutch unless you're shifting. If you're going to stop, you just basically roll off the throttle, and it does a regen. And there's a guy who doesn't know there's no stop sign there. You know, it doesn't exactly like wheelie master, but it definitely takes off. And it's got that characteristic electric sound. I don't know if I noticed any difference with moving the front tubes. It's actually a fairly comfortable bike though. You know, it gets right up to 30 miles an hour, just like that. You know, we'll open her up here when we get it out in the open. Yeah, it's weird. You pull up to a stop sign, and it just stops. So it just kind of goes dead. The mirrors were a little bit weird. There, we'll get it so it doesn't just, well, they're not the best. I think we'll go right. It does not have self-canceling signals, which, you know, I'm used to. So I have to be real attentive to making sure I shut them off. Otherwise, people pull out in front of you. You know, I've got an electric bicycle, and riding this and my bicycle are kind of the same, except this goes way faster. This thing will do 100 plus, there, and my bike will do downhill with the wind 39 miles an hour. That's got a 1,000 watt motor in it. This has got a 40,000 watt motor. Or kilowatt, I should say, kilowatt. Yeah, so it's 1 kilowatt versus 40 kilowatts. So they were doing 65, and I just shifted into high gear. We're running about 4,500 RPM. Now a live wire, or one of those, would be doing about 8,000 RPM right now, which would be this in fourth gear. Don't really use much brake because it does do the regen. And I normally downshift to fourth on things like this. You know, fourth gear is kind of the all-around good gear to be in. I'm doing 30 miles an hour behind this car at about 2,600 RPM. So for electric motor, that's, you know, quite low. I like the noise it makes. It just sounds very advanced. I've actually never had it in anything but third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. I've never used first or second, so I don't know what they're like. Neutral is in between second and third. So the idea here is first gear is, I think, mainly used for, you know, if you're going to tool across the lawn or something. So here again, fourth gear, you just stop. We'll see what it does here. I'm going to crank her open. So that basically was 70 miles an hour. You know, like I say, it's not going to throw you off the seat or anything. It's, as far as electric go, this is probably on the weekend. And I don't mean weekend like weekday, I mean weekend of the spectrum. 70 foot-pounds of torque, which is, it's equivalent, if you want to use motorcycle comparisons, a Harley Sportster 1200 and this have the same torque and horsepower range, 65 and 70. Shifting's pretty good once you get used to it. Oh, we got some kind of a deal here. We'll zing by this guy. It's really kind of weird though. You roll the throttle in 6th gear and it pulls about the same as if it was in 4th gear. Now I'm doing 60 miles an hour at 4,200 RPM. Pretty low RPM motor, really. Yeah, it goes from 60 to 70 real quick like. But it's light. It's a light bike. The mirrors really suck. I can see my elbows really good. I think I'm going to have to fix that. Cornering is really good too. It's, like I say, it's a light bike and you can really lean it into the corners. Okay, I'm in 5th gear, doing about 60 miles an hour and it's cranking 4,600 RPM. It's only 400 RPM difference between 5th and 6th. The gear ratios are really close. The ride is a little bit firm, as you can tell by my voice probably. But for a sport bike, they're pretty good. You know, like I say, I'm not the kind of person you'd envision to be driving a sport bike. And I've driven them, you know, my sons had R6s and that kind of thing, and I've driven them and I've never really liked the way they sit. Although most sport bikes aren't bad when you're in the wind, you tend to lay on the handlebars so bad. Oh, I forgot you don't use the clutch. That was stupid. Okay, I'm in 1st gear now, just for the hell of it. Oh, the regen really kicks in 1st gear. This is the first time I've ever been in 1st gear. Oh, she definitely pulls in 1st gear, and 2nd, and 3rd. Yeah, 1st gear you could do a wheelie. I will say this is a fun machine. It's just fun. You know, you roll the throttle and it's so smooth. As you can tell, it doesn't have a windshield. I'm getting plenty of push on the wind here. I think I'm driving into the wind too. I do have to adjust the shifter a little bit. I end up lifting my foot too much. I think it'd be okay if I was wearing boots, but I don't typically wear boots. I wear tennis shoes, so I need to align the shifter a little bit better for what I do. And I am driving right into the wind here too, and it's not having any trouble. Now it does have a thing on here that tells you how many miles you got left, and when I'm cranking against the wind it says 35 miles, but as soon as I let up it goes up to 120. So it's basically just goes off the current draw, and I guess it's not very reliable, so I'm not paying much attention to it. Yeah, like right now it says I have 109 miles left. And as soon as I crank on it here, I think it'll drop down quite a bit. It's really hard to see the display. It's a liquid crystal display, and it's not, I don't know if it's backlit, but you know, again, I got polarized sunglasses on, which don't help. One thing I might add to this is a GPS speedometer. Although I guess I can see the mileage pretty good. The speedometer and the gear indicator, you can see the rest of the readings on there. It's glorified guess. But I am surprised at how comfortable it is compared to what I thought it would be. I thought it would be absolutely awful, and it's acceptable. I don't think I'd want to ride all day with this thing, but you know, here again, it's what you get used to. I spend most of my life on my Goldwing or my Valkyrie, and they're like super comfortable and smooth and great wind protection. Then you get on this thing with, you know, the rear set pegs, narrow seat, no windshield. Still gobs of fun. This thing is just fun to drive. I can't believe how nice it handles. Yeah, I'll be glad when I get my saddlebags and the windshield. Then I can go into using this thing in a practical way. Right now it's just a toy. Oh, I guess I might stop here just for the hell of it. But we're out in the middle of nowhere and there's a stop sign. So far I only forgot the clutch thing once. I just noticed something. There's a bunch of green lights that flash on the dash, which tell you you should shift. I've been shifting, I think, in pretty much at the right point, but on that last shift I noticed it said, it displayed that I should shift. Yeah, I'm surprised too when you put it in, you take off like in second or third, and you know, you kind of feel the pull when you crank on it. But like right now in sixth, you open her up and it pulls almost as hard as it did when I had it in fourth gear. The only thing I really noticed as far as what I would call respectable pulling is first gear. I think I could have lifted the front wheel if I would have got a little bit industrious with the twisting there. Yeah, if it wasn't for all the wind, I'm not used to all this wind and the wind pressure, the wind noise. Yeah, it would be fun. There is a lot of clunking in the drivetrain. That's a common complaint. There's just a lot of driveline lash. So you let up and you can feel it. I mean, it really clunks. But that's, you know, that's one of them things. There. Get some air. Yeah, and I had the signal on. See, for about the last mile, I'm taking a left turn. I got to do something there. I should put a little beeper on it or something. You wouldn't have to have much because this thing makes no noise, except for a very slight hum. It's weird pulling up to a stop sign and just stopping. What's kind of cool too is you can put it in neutral, and so when you get up next to the bikers, you can blip the throttle and kind of give them the old whine. That's pretty awesome. It's just different, isn't it? Well, let's see, what did I do so far? 18 miles. I'm at, it says 65% battery. It says the range is 120 miles. Yeah, it always says that when you stop. I'm going to put in neutral here. There's second. There's neutral. So you get up next to the Harley guys. Yeah, that'll teach them. Yeah. Boy, if that doesn't scare them off, I don't know what the hell will.